Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at one of the coolest crossovers we've ever seen in the Pokemon TCG, and one I don't think we've ever spoken about, but it's all starting to get a bit silly now, so it's time we talked about Mario Pikachu. Yeah, that's right. We're going back like 7 years now, alright? But 7 years ago, Mario Pikachu was totally a thing. What happened was that over in Japan, they actually released a pair of boxes. There was a Mario Pikachu special box and a Luigi Pikachu special box. Shout out to Bulbapedia, from where I got some of these images and a little bit of the information. And basically, they were sold, and I'm going to be honest with you, they weren't terribly expensive. I'm going to show you how much they are nowadays. It's ridiculous. But back then, they were the price of a regular promo box. I don't have the exact figure in front of me, right? But it would have been somewhere in the region of around $100. That's generally how much you spend on something like this. Now, it might have been a bit more. Might have been a few $100, so not that much. But believe me, ladies and gentlemen, if you could go back in time to 2016, you would pick these up in a heartbeat. It is worth noting that 2016 was before the kind of new boom in the Pokemon TCG, so you didn't have all of the scalpers back then. It was much easier to just pick up this stuff. That's not where we are nowadays. Now, these were released in October 2016, and if we have a look at the promotional art here, you can see why this is so gosh darn cool. Because it's Super Mario Pikachu. They've literally gone and taken all of the Super Mario kind of characters that you would expect to see and just replace them with Pokemon. And it's amazing, and I love it. And now I wasn't, I was big into the Pokemon TCG back then. What I wasn't doing back then was importing products from Japan. I wish I could go back in time and give 2016 Wassy a bit of a slap and tell him to go and start ordering this stuff. Not because I want to flip it, but because this is really cool stuff that I will now never own because I'm not rich. But this is, I mean this very sincerely, one of the very coolest things we have ever seen in the history of the Pokemon TCG. It is just absolutely flat out ridiculously stunning, and I love it, ladies and gentlemen. I absolutely love it. What did you actually get inside of each of the boxes? Well, you can see they were very much equivalent to each other, I think is fair to say. And what you got yourself was a deck box, a card storage box, a set of 64 sleeves featuring the relevant Mario Pikachu or Mario Luigi, and a pair of promo cards, one regular, one full art. Now, obviously, at this stage, this is where I tell you that the full art version of this promo has just become one of the most sought after cards in recent memory. In terms of, promotional cards or things along those lines, this is one of the big ones. And I'm talking one of the big ones from the past, decade. This is one of the ones that people want the most. Now, if we start off with Mario, you can see there are two versions of it. You can also see, even if you don't speak any Japanese or read any Japanese, that these are they are exactly the same card except for the artwork. So you've got 80 HP, and you've got single lightning energy, flip a coin until you get tails, draw a coin for each heads. No, draw a card for each heads. And then 30 damage, flip a coin, if heads, 50 more for free colorless energy. It's a terrible card, but that's not really the point, ladies and gentlemen. That is very much not the point. It is here because it's cool. It's not here because it's a particularly playable card, and I don't think that is a controversial statement. For what it's worth, Luigi's got the same first attack, and the card is literally called Luigi Pikachu. Yeah, Luigi Pikachu. And it's single energy, flip a coin till you get tails for each head, draw a card. And then the second attack is 50 damage, and you do 20 to yourself. Again, it's terrible. It's completely unplayable. but that also makes a lot of sense because can you imagine if these cards were actually playable and people were trying to get hold of these not because they were cool, but because they actually needed them for their deck? That would be ridiculous. And even back then, and the terribly depressing thing is, I remember when this launched. Like, I was doing YouTube in 2016. 2016 was the year my YouTube started kind of growing properly. And I saw this come out. Didn't make a video about it for some stupid reason. Silly wassy. But yeah, I should have bought these at the time. So that's what the boxes were and how cool they are. What's happened to the price now? Well, honestly, nowadays, trying to find a raw copy of these cards is awkward, honestly. And also, it's a kind of card that gets faked a lot. See, you're not going to find many raw copies of this card. And when you do find raw copies of this card, it's going to get a little bit silly, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to get a little bit silly. So what we've got here, I mean, you see a few auctions in a row here. We've got a set of all four of them they seem to all be PSA 10. One for $11,250 and one for $16,000. And then you got a Mario on its own for $3,250, though that is a PSA 9. So quick PSA here, that is a 9, not a 10. So, you're only paying just over $3,000 for that one. I mean, yeah. That is kind of impressive in a way. We got a couple of just Mario Pikachu on their own here. One for $1,100 as a PSA 9. One as a PSA 10 for $2,000. And then there is a set of all four here again for $20,000, which is actually more than the rest of them. So I'm not sure why you buy this one. But you're talking somewhere in the region of about, I don't know. I mean, 12 to 15 grand for the set of four. And then the Mario is going to set you back maybe $3,000 if you're lucky. The full art. The regular Mario you might be able to pick up for just over $1,000. But you see the problem here, ladies and gentlemen. They are getting absolutely silly. Now, this is what they're being listed at. In terms of, whether they've actually sold, that's a different thing. Because the sold are actually a little bit less. So we've got 3 in a row here. We've got a set of the 2 PSA 9 that sold for under $5,000. A Mario only PSA 10 that sold for 9, or, best offer accepted, so a bit lower. And then, we got a PSA 7 that sold for $650. And obviously, the listing here is like, regrade possible. No, mate. It's a PSA 7. If you think it could be regraded for a higher grade, crack it, get it regraded, and sell it for a higher grade. I really dislike all of these listings which are like, I think it's a higher grade. It's not a higher grade, mate. That's the grade it got given. Deal with it. In terms of Luigi, there was a regular one, PSA 10, that sold for $1,500 fairly recently, within the past few weeks. So that's actually a pretty good look at the value of Luigi there. Wasn't a best offer accepted or anything like that. It was just, this is $1,500, let's go. The last PSA 10 Luigi full art that sold went for just over $4,000. There was a PSA 8 that went for $1,800. So if you're willing to take a slightly lower grade, you can save yourself a lot of money here. But the point is, you got all 4 of these promo cards in one box, which was not that expensive, and look how silly it's gotten. Of course, there is a question here of, well, alright, what about a sealed box? Sealed box quite a lot, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the last sealed box we had of Mario that was sold was bid up to $8,000, which, to be fair, now you can't guarantee the value or, the condition of the 4 promo cards inside, but given the 4 promos I've just shown you, this comes with 2 of the Mario promos, which, as we've seen, are obviously the higher value, the more sought after, plus the sleeves and all of that. $8,000 seems decent. We can also see here there are a couple of sealed Mario that have sold. Now, it did come as a pack of 2, and the 2 sealed Mario cards, one sold for 3,500, one sold for 5. They were sold 5 days apart. And this is the problem with trying to look at the value of these kind of cards. These were sold 5 days apart, and they were bid not buy it now, and one of them went for almost, well, actually pretty much exactly 50% more than the other, which is kind of silly, honestly. These have gotten absolutely redonkulous. If anybody's wondering, the last Luigi box that sold for $3,275. That one was, again, bid up, and that was the actual ending price. So the last Mario one was sold for just shy of $8,000. Luigi just over $3,250. These have gotten very, very silly. But the cards we've not talked about on the channel, I wanted to show them to you. I can't give you a perfect sense of value, because if you go and look, the values of these are a little bit all over the place. But I've given you a bunch of examples here that you can use to see approximate values of, you know, whether they're sealed or PSA or whatever. But honestly, ladies and gentlemen, it is, well, whatever you can get for it, I suppose. But I've given you a nice little few examples. But now it's over to you guys. I want to know what you think, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know if you've picked this up. I want to know if you would pay this money. I want to know anything you want to tell me. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely Dojo, who's one of our newer patrons and seems to be a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.